So Nick Aldis was in the back with Ashante Adonis. And I mean, I don't know where they're going with this, but it was almost like we were listening to one of the AEW roster where, he's saying to Aldis, I've been struggling. I feel lost. I don't know what my place is. Don't feel sorry for me. I just need an opportunity. These are professional athletes, and they're in the boss's office begging, and it's their dream to have been there. But Aldis looks at him with being unmoved emotionally because he's the stern type. And he says, don't worry, I've got ideas for you. So he's got ideas for the humble but lovable Ashante Adonis. What do you think those ideas are?
It's not my fault they booked me with Top Dollar. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I just showed up. I was just there.
I've served my penance.
I like Aldis a lot. I mean, at the end of the show, too, just the way he carries himself as he does these things. He's not one of these feckless general managers, and he's not too over the top with it. You still are wondering what his motivations are. He's become one of my favorite characters on this show.
I will agree that he has done a good job with he's done a good job with everything that they have given him and that he has done. I think they made a mistake at the end of this fucking program. I'll tell you why. We're putting him in that particular position.
Huh.
But allow me to explain as we get there, because what we got left is the main event in this SmackDown program. And they're more economical than they are with the time on Raw, because they started the entrances for the triple threat match to meet Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble at 9:30 Eastern. And by 9:38, they were back from a break and the match was already underway. And it was LA Knight and Randy Orton and AJ Styles. And you will recall when last we left our space travelers, AJ had turned on or just, fucking been inhospitable to Orton, it was, correct? And
well, AJ punched LA Knight.
That's right. He spun LA Knight around and punched him. And then he shouldered past Orton, and he's got it. So they're not all just humble and lovable with each other here. There's some tension, is how they set it up. But still, you've got nominally two baby faces, LA Knight and Randy Orton, and one who was until he just sucker punched the other guy last week or whenever the fuck it was. Right?
Right.
So I hate having to watch these things because they, unfortunately, even with good talent, they're all the same. Two guys are going to fight while one disappears for some specious reason that you wouldn't sell whatever that long, or just for no reason at all. And they do moves to each other back and forth until they're done, and then they do an angle or a finish in the case of AEW, which hadn't figured out how to do angles yet. And this was just a higher level version of it because all these guys are over and they're all professionals. But you could tell that, when LA Knight did the heads to the desk on both Orton and AJ, the fans like it better on AJ because they like Orton. They don't want to cheer him overwhelmingly getting his fucking face bashed into something. Which is why I hate it when there's two baby faces in one of these things, because you invariably split the crowd or diminish a reaction. And then Orton did the thing where he just picks a guy up and just drops him back first on the desk. He did it to LA Knight and to AJ, and then LA Knight again. And there's poor Charles Robinson just standing there watching, not counting, because it's a three-way. It's no DQ, lazy booking. And Brian, you'll recall at the original three-ways, the triple threat matches, it wasn't no disqualification because that's a hat on a hat. There was no need to have that. You already had a stipulation. But now it's evolved into you can't be counted out. You can't be disqualified. Anybody can help you. I guess maybe can we get some assistance from the crowd? Is there a Mark that would like to come in and help us out, right? So they go back and forth in this fashion, right? And again, I zoned out. They had lots more on the floor. Everybody can work. They're doing shit to each other. We made that point. And then finally, AJ does a 450 springboard. Is that a 360 or 4? He did the springboard from the apron and then stood on the rope and then did a complete somersault and landed with a splash on poor LA Knight. How many degrees is that? That's the 360 or the 450? I think it's a 450.
It's the 420.
Well, and maybe he was 420 before he did the 450 because he landed on LA Knight's face and busted him wide open. Wide smacking open. And if you go back and watch, LA sees as... I can't imagine what that looks like when some stupid motherfucker is standing on the top rope and doing a goddamn cannonball in the air and then coming with a splash, because I've never experienced that, because they didn't do that when I had an occasion to wrestle. But if you go back and look at this, Brian, when AJ jumps and he's coming fast in that flip and he's coming from a good height, it looks like as he's coming down, LA looks like, this may not be coming out even. And he tries to kind of turn a little bit to the right to take, his face away from the fucking scene of the crime there. And boom, AJ with an elbow apparently landed and gashed LA Knight's fucking forehead. And boom, as soon as LA Knight turns over and it kicks out, or whatever the fuck, you can see the trickle start, and it kept going, and the announcers never mentioned the word blood. So this is something they hopefully need to get clarification on from their UFC brethren. That don't the UFC announcers, when a guy gets busted open for real, say, well, that guy just got busted open.
Yeah, they say exactly that. That's right.
Yeah, so I can understand them not wanting to use the blade on the entertainment program or whatever, but you got to be able to say the word fucking blood. Good God. Anyway, so then Orton comes back in and LA Knight disappears, probably happy that he's able to do that. And AJ springboards toward Orton, but Orton gives him the RKO and cover 1, 2, and LA Knight pulls the referee to the floor. And he pulled him to the floor, and that's the last we're going to see out of him for several minutes, because he was pulled to the floor. He immediately, I guess, went into cardiac arrest, because now all three guys were down, and the English announcer needed CPR. He sounded like he was goddamn on his last legs. And they play Roman Reigns' music, and out comes Roman and Solo and Jimmy and Paul. And while all of this stuff is happening that I'm about to tell you about, the announcers are bemoaning that, well, there's nothing that can be done. It's no disqualification. Still, again, couldn't there be a pretext that while the referee is down, we're going to interfere and do some mayhem or whatever? They played music on the run-in while the referee was down. He'd have had to not only been knocked out, he'd have had to been knocked deep. Right?
Well, you never think about that.
I can understand him being face down on the other side of the ring. He didn't see what happened. No, we're going to play the goddamn guy's music on a loudspeaker.
If the referee just hears the oohs and ahs of the crowd, it could be anything. But if it's literally the guy's entrance music, you have to assume.
Yes, there's a clue. It's a clue, Smithers. Right? But then if you establish that foiled somebody, then one of the other heels could play the babyface's entrance music. And so nevertheless, so here comes the bloodline. And Roman sends Solo in and he fights LA Knight. And Roman and Jimmy get on Orton and they get heat on the babyfaces. And Solo hits Orton with the stairs. And again, they're taking their time. They're taking their time. They're not like they're perpetrating a crime. They're just doing whatever they want. There's no referee. Nobody's ringing a bell. But as we come to find out later on, a match apparently was over. Nobody's coming out to help, whether it be security, other referees, whatever. Roman Reigns powerbombs AJ and shit cans him, gives the Superman punch to LA Knight, and then spears him. And then the heels roll Orton in. Now the referee's up by now, just standing around watching. And the thing that we were going to comment on, Nick Aldis has been there watching the match all along, but he's still there. And in Roman Reigns spears Randy Orton. And then Aldis, ringside with Paul, says, I need to speak to you. And he's not, Aldis is, he's the goddamn epitome of the cool British secret agent type, right? He's not sweating. Nothing is out of place. There's not a wrinkle on his custom-made suit. But he tells Paul, not even on the microphone, just so the camera can pick it up, tell your man Roman Reigns that he's earned a 4-way match for the title at the Royal Rumble with all 3 of these guys. My disdain for 4-ways will be expressed in a second. Here's what I didn't like what I was telling you about. Yes, Aldis is you don't know what his motives are, and he's a very gruff person, and he's neither a babyface or a heel. You can tell he's out for himself. He's a corporate ladder climber. He wants to be a big deal around there. He's not like Adam Pearce that is there for the love of the game and wants to support the athletes. Aldis, you can tell, is a goddamn Republican, right? He's out for himself. But at the same time, he's brand new. It's just started a month or whatever ago. To have him stand out there as the authority figure of the program and the general manager and the guy that's in charge of this TV show and wants to make money with it, and do absolutely nothing while this gang of thugs completely destroys 3 of his top name stars? Imagine if it was Dana White. There would be some chaos going on. I'm not saying don't let the heels get heat in front of him. I'm saying don't have him standing out there watching the whole thing and put up with it and then tell Paul that he's bought himself a 4-way. If the referee goes down, run the heels down. Let them get some urgent heat on these baby faces. Roman Reigns is trying to take every single challenger he's got out at the same time. And the bloodline's on him, and there comes Aldis with the goddamn security and the referees, and he's mad. He doesn't have to be a raving lunatic, but he's not fucking happy about this because there's 3 of his goddamn meal tickets. Do you see what I'm saying here?
I do.
It puts more urgency on the whole thing. And then when he makes the 4-way, he makes it out of contempt for what Roman Reigns tried to do, which doesn't make him a babyface or a heel. It still fits in with him wanting this show to be the best show because it makes him look good. But it also sets up tension with him and the bloodline of his real nature rather than, well, tell your man he's just bought himself a 4-way and Paul do the shock face.
See, I agree with you, but I actually am intrigued by the dispassionate way he handles these situations. He didn't panic. He didn't yell. He didn't say, if we lose these 3 guys, my show's fucked. None of that.
I'm not saying he needs to panic and go fucking throw his fucking body over the top of one of them, but he needs to be more upset. I agree with you. He should be a dispassionate, cool British fucking fellow, except when his 3 top stars are getting assassinated, he needs to fire up a little bit, I would think. Or don't be put in that position. But that's the thing is the end of the, there was no finish to the match. These guys came out and beat these guys up and nobody tried to fucking stop them. And there was no urgency and there was no sense of a crime being committed because even they were like, well, fuck. You know, it's all no DQ. It's anything can fucking happen. There needs to be more jeopardy in this type of shit for it to really get people to want to climb over the fucking rail. That's my fucking point and I'm sticking to it.
All right, more Jeopardy, and he didn't even sing Greg Kinn. So we won out this week.
All this on Jeopardy, baby.
All this on Jeopardy?
Whoa. I'd like to see Nick Aldis on Jeopardy. See if he can answer any of those questions.
All right, well, that is a plane going over my head.
Maybe it's the same one. Has there been enough time?
What are these leaflets? Well, that was Smackdown. And boy, was it.